Welcome to Filmstrip, movie reviews presented by Continuous Play Podcast. These podcasts are spoiler-filled as we discuss the plots, characters, and themes of the films in review. All content used or discussed in these podcast episodes is the property of the respective owners and used under the Fair Use Act, Section 504, C2, Title 17.
Welcome to Filmstrip. I'm Jay.
And I'm Nick.
And this is our review of Jaws 3, or 3D if you happen to catch it that way, starring Dennis Quaid, Bess Armstrong, John Putch, Simon McCorkindale, and Louis Gossett Jr. Directed by Joe Alves. Released in 1983 on a budget of $18 million, grossed $87.9 million in its box office run. And I'm proud to say myself, my brother, my father, and my mother were probably about $20 of that, because we saw this opening weekend as a family at the local theater, Nick, in where I grew up in the South here. And I remember going to the theater. It's my first 3D movie because I'd heard about this from my parents. They say, oh, it's awesome. All this stuff comes out at you. And they had this big, like, long banner outside of the theater with the Jaws 3D clamping teeth titles, and the 3D glasses were like had shark fins on them. I mean, it was crazy, man. It was nuts. I remember this distinctly coming out and thinking, oh, this is going to be awesome. And then I saw it and have seen it many times since. So we'll get into that as we go through. But
what was your, if you can go back, 30 years, do you remember what your reaction was walking out of that theater? I mean, you had to be a little,
yeah.
I mean, 30 years ago, what were you, 24?
I was seven. So actually at that point, I remember thinking that because spoiler alert, the shark dies at the end of this, the shark teeth flying out at me was a pretty crazy looking thing, and that I was like, wow. And I remember just being blown away by the visual of it for a 7-year-old. When I saw it again, it had to be a year or two later when it came on television or HBO or whatever it was, and I thought about it. I was like, this is kind of dumb. And I've sort of held that. Now, that didn't keep me from owning this on VHS and DVD and, things like that through the years. But this one is it's a funny one for me, a weird one, because I watched it that one time in theater, and then I watched it again. I didn't watch this again until I was, probably out of high school. And at that point, it was... I was watching things with actors that I knew from other stuff at that point. Dennis Quaid had done a lot of other things. I knew Bess Armstrong from other things at that point. I was never really a John Leah Thompson. Fan. Leah Thompson, of course, I knew from other stuff. Gossett Jr. I knew from Iron Eagle, which is my favorite thing he's ever done. Sorry, Roots, and Officer and a Gentleman, and all this other stuff I'd seen. So going back to this one is a little weird. And also, I saw one of those documentaries early on where they talk about how this was supposed to be a parody movie called Jaws 3 People Zero, and then that got shut down by Spielberg and other people, and they tried to make a quote serious one. And so also ruined when I finally got to go to SeaWorld and I realized that Orlando's landlocked. Yeah, kind of a problem. But I didn't know that at the time, so I bought
it all depends on the time of the year. I think after the hurricanes and stuff, sometimes it's not landlocked, but that
could be true. So as is, but now of course you did not see this in theaters. Were you even born in 1983?
I was born in 1983, but not when this movie came out. I was born in December of 1983.
Okay. So.
Yes. I was, I guess, depending on your political affiliation, I was either alive or not alive. So
you were in your egg stasis station of gestation.
I was in my pupal stage at this time.
Yes, you were growing. So yeah. So when did you first see the Jaws 3?
I can't tell you exactly when I saw it. I remember seeing it, kind of like with Jaws 2. Like, I think a lot of times these were like kind of double billed on like your USA or TBS or I think it was like TNT actually. So just kind of one of these movies where, again, just Saturday afternoons by the grandma's house watching these, or, maybe an afternoon where you're home sick from school and it happens to be on TV. And I remember growing up, I kind of like this movie. I like Jaws 2 and 3. I had really bad taste in movies when I was a kid, and I think all of us do. But Yeah, just kind of seeing it throughout. I don't think I ever like really sat down and watched the entire thing. It's almost like a Christmas Story with me, where I've never sat down and watched the whole thing, but I've seen the whole movie just like in bits and pieces, like kind of like a puzzle set where you're able to kind of like, I've seen like the first 20 minutes, the last half hour, the middle hour, you know what I mean, where you can be able to put it all together. But until we decided to review this movie, that was actually the first time I sat down and watched this thing from beginning to end.
And this is the shortest of them, too. I mean, this one's barely an hour and 40 minutes long. So if you cut out the credits, it's less than that. So, yeah, it's a totally different feel. Like, from the beginning, I think that you get to the underwater scene, and should be said, if you're one of the unfortunate people like myself that owned this before the advent of good HD transfer and 3D televisions in the late 2000s, you have seen the crappiest version of this you could possibly see, because the kind of 3D that it was done on wasn't the kind you could replicate at home at all. And so basically the version you saw was half of one lens. So the grain on it is awful. The one I watched, the one on Netflix, is out on the DVD, like I said. The Netflix one is the cleaned up one. Like, it looks nice. I'm like, well, at least they kind of cleaned it up.
It maybe looks nice in comparison. The whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, my God, this movie looks like shit.
I mean, there's something you can't fix, but they cleaned it a little bit. At least the colors aren't completely washed out.
Yeah, and I think, the thing that's so obvious is, like, you can tell this was filmed for 3D because those matte lines on the 3D stuff, like the catfish head or an arm or a leg, whatever that was, it's like, it looked like someone, like, took, like, a Sharpie marker and, like, outlined it. I mean, it's so obvious.
They had so much stuff that was just for the 3D, but I guess we need to do the plot summary before we get any further into this, Nick. So let me lay it out here. So a baby great white shark is captured within the gates of Calvin Bouchard's Florida Aquatic Theme Park. However,
SeaWorld.
Yeah. However, the shark's mother is also present and begins a reign of terror after the baby dies in captivity. As patrons are stranded and the massive shark continues to prowl, Mike Brody, who's grown up to be a park engineer, along with his girlfriend, marine biologist Catherine Morgan, before she had an angry teenager in the 90s, and nature photographer Philip Fitzroyce, race to the rescue in an attempt to dispatch the shark. After Fitzroyce is killed and more mayhem, the shark corners everyone in the underwater control room and twirls his mustache before it tells them how they're all going to die. And then Brody uses some quick thinking to pull a pin on a grenade stuck in the shark's teeth, leftovers from Fitzroyce, and the giant shark is destroyed along with a lot of the park, and Brody and Morgan celebrate with some dolphins as credits roll and their jobs are over. So
I know, I keep on thinking though that lady's Frances McDormand.
No, she kind of does look like that, but Bess Armstrong was before then. I was a fan of hers because of My So-Called Life. She's the mother on that, and I had seen her in a Tom Hanks movie that I really liked called Nothing in Common that was out in the middle of '80s. So I always liked her and kind of liked her presence on screen, and I forever remembered her as the Jaws 3 lady. If I ever met her, I don't go to cons or anything, if I ever met her and I told her that, she would probably hit me, because I'm sure much like Dennis Quaid, she doesn't want to admit the fact that she was in this. But because if you ask Quaid, he was like, no, I wasn't in that. Like, he will just disavow it. So completely.
Dennis Quaid. Is this our first Dennis Quaid movie?
I think it is, actually. Of all the 200 and something films we've reviewed, we haven't run across a Quaid yet, and I don't know how that happened, but it comes around, so we get there.
We'll have to do The Parent Trap one day,
or maybe not. So I kind of don't want that to be my first Lindsay Lohan. But anyway. I like, though, the setting here, because we talked about, I don't want to go through all the IMDb trivia on how the movie came together, but they got to come up with something, and they at least had what I will call a smite of somewhat good idea of, well, how do we make this work? We've already done the drama adventure film. We've already done the slasher movie. And someone along the way, and I can never really pin down who it was, if it was Alves who had worked on the other ones, or if it was one of the producers or one of the screenwriters, came up with the idea that we need to make this a disaster movie and we need to trap everybody in a theme park. That idea is at least novel enough to make me go, well, you started with something good.
Yeah. Here's the problem with that, though. just get out of the water. You're fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Sean Brody's the smartest person here. He goes to school in Colorado or something, so he figured out I got to get away from the water like that.
Yeah, does he like live in Aspen with like the cowboy boots and the hat and everything?
I think he goes to
like
CU. I've been to CU. I've seen it. That people dress like that out there. Not that many. The more of them are kind of the hipster tile nowadays, but in the 80s, yes, that would have totally been. He would have been urban cowboy.
I'm just thinking like Dumb and Dumber when they go to Colorado and it's like them walking around town and like everybody's got like the cowboy hats on and the cowboy boots, and then they got like the like cowskin jackets and everything. I mean, yeah, I guess there's cattlers out there and everything like that. But I just find it so funny that he like quickly like absorbed that like image and lifestyle after being like a beach brat his whole life.
Yeah, he's a New England beach guy, right? But he goes cowboy. But as we'll see, Sean's all about the ladies. So I imagine that has something to do with his transformation here. But I like the idea that we're gonna put this here. And look, you have to realize the half of this movie is a disaster movie, and the other half is a live action commercial for SeaWorld.
I'm gonna tell you right now, no, this movie is a disaster movie. So yes. But you know what, though? I think you're going to be kind of surprised as we go through this review.
We'll get into that. But let's just sort of run through the characters, then we can get into the plot for better or worse, because it's pretty simple. SeaWorld. Now, what do you think, besides the idea of get out of the water, what do you think of the idea of let's set this at a theme park and kind of trap everybody that way?
I guess it's something different in a way. I mean, I kind of see like, okay, we got to change the setting. We can't just do it at a beach or anything like that. So really, what else is in the water? Okay, well, I guess a theme park.
Well, I mean, I think they became aware of, did you know there's a whole ocean theme park in Florida? They knew they wanted to shoot in Florida again because the weather was way better and the shark mechanics had problems anyway, but they could make it work better down there. So they thought, let's shoot in Florida again. And they're like, did you know there's this whole theme park of ocean shit in Florida? They decided to go. But if you've ever been to SeaWorld, it's more like going on a science field trip than it is going to Six Flags or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you could take Disney World and make it like really, really boring and throw a lot of fish in there, that's SeaWorld.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, I've been to a couple of big aquariums. The Georgia Aquarium's really nice and neat. The one in Chattanooga, the TVA Aquarium's pretty cool. Neat stuff to see, but you're going in there to learn too. You're not really going in there to like see. I know Shamu and the whole killer whale show, and they do have that. SeaWorld's always had that, and
it's
if you really want to get into that,
I mean, that's what it is. It's a zoo. You're going to a zoo.
Yeah, you're going to a zoo. It's exactly right. It's more like going to a zoo. You don't see the Hatfield and McCoy dancing pigs show, and that seems more Disney and Six Flagsy. It's like they foisted that in there so that people could understand. Because at the time, I don't think people knew SeaWorld that much. And then they came up with this whole underwater crowd.
SeaWorld is a brand, though. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like it's not a top tier place. I mean, your top tier ones are, Disney and Universal Studios, and then you kind of got like your next tier ones, which is like your Six Flags, your Busch Gardens, and SeaWorld's kind of like that third tier, you know what I mean? Where it's like it's nice, but it's like no one ever really plans a vacation to go to SeaWorld. It's kind of like, well, we're gonna do Disney and Universal, and maybe we'll throw a day in there. We'll go see SeaWorld. You know what I mean? It's like not a place that you ever really are like, yeah, we're going down to Florida to go to SeaWorld. Well, that's like a half a day trip. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, you can kind of do it in a day, and so
easily do it in a day. But my question though too is like, as I brought up, SeaWorld is a brand, and it's why would they attach their name to a movie where they know a shark is going to get into their park and then eat people? I mean, could you think you could go to Disney and say, hey, Disney, we want to put Jason in your theme park? They'd go, you know what? Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. You know what I mean? I just find that absolutely crazy that they would put a movie that's a horror movie in their theme park and tie their image to that. I find that just befuddling.
I can tell you, I think what they saw here was an opportunity to be a part of the sequel to the biggest movie of all time. They thought this is going to put us out there, and if it just gets people interested enough to take a drive-by at us or something, it's worth the publicity. P.T. Barnum has always said, there's no such thing as bad publicity if you know how to use it.
Yeah, but they didn't use it right, though. I mean, that's the whole thing is like everything in this movie, though, is problems because of them, because they have incompetent marine biologists. They have bad engineers working there.
Yeah, can I tell you, the thing is, if they had any influence on the script, it was how many people actually die. You notice all the deaths are people that, like, in some way deserve it or we can root against. Like, Leah Thompson doesn't even get eaten. She just gets sort of, slashed by the shark. And then there's some random people that get killed. But there's not like, it doesn't eat like 200 tourists. The ones that get trapped by it all get saved. And they get saved by what? The quick thinking college intern tour guide, like everything bad that happens is because of outside people from the park. Because they make a big point of saying Bouchard is an entrepreneur who brings this to the park. The park people are, if they had listened to the biologists, the shark wouldn't have died. It's all the greedy money people that are ruining everything. So it's not really SeaWorld's fault. That's how SeaWorld's looking at it. And I think that's how they played it off.
They couldn't even get that gate to work. My God. They have incompetent people there. And then it's also like, yeah, let's put a great white shark in like a freaking shallow pool that you could put like 2-year-olds in to play in. It's like, yeah, that just shows their competency as being marine biologists. There's a reason why there's no freaking great white sharks at SeaWorld or any type of like sea aquarium or anything like that, because you can't house them.
No, you can't, and you're right. And I remember distinctly being in Boy Scouts. This was after I'd seen Jaws 3, but I read that Boy Scout magazine that came out, and there's a great story in there. You can actually find it online still about a diver who has to go and do what they simulate in this movie of walking a shark. They had caught a great white shark, and they were trying to walk it in this huge tank, much bigger than the Goofy when they put this thing in, and it gets away from him at one point, and he loses his handle on it, and it's in the dark. He didn't know where the thing is, and all of a sudden, he feels this loud shudder hears this loud noise in the tank, and the shark has rammed itself into the wall and basically stunned itself, and it killed itself on accident trying to get out. But it was a story that always stuck in my mind because I remember from this movie, they make a big deal out of the fact that, hey, it's really hard to keep a great white in captivity.
I mean, they couldn't even do it in Ace Ventura, okay?
I'm not even going to do that. That's like comparing Austin Powers to James Bond. So let's not do that. But I think they're right here with the way they play some of this, is that you couldn't tame something like that. But that's exactly what some sort of entrepreneur would want to do. So, yes, is it stupid? Yes. But I get it. I get what they're trying to do with that. And I will say...
And they later copied it in Jurassic World.
Well, yeah, they kind of did. I mean, right, Jurassic Park is in a lot of ways Jaws 3. So it's a lot of the same stuff. And it's the same central theme of that, too, is you shouldn't mesh with science. It's the same stuff here. Have you always known or been aware that the guys here, the Brody, that these are the kids growing up from the Amity Adventures, or did you not realize that?
The first couple of times, I remember as a kid, I didn't really put that together. I put it together on my last viewing because obviously the last name's Brody, and then they do kind of keep on making mentions of an incident back when they were children. I mean, that's kind of the whole thing with the younger Brody not wanting to go into the water unless Leah Thompson's in there in a bikini. So, I mean, who
could blame him, by the way? That's a reason to get in the water.
Yeah, it definitely is. But yeah, I was able to put it together that these are the kids and everything like that. But I think it's just that they wrote this movie and then I think they just kind of inserted that they are.
I think it was a late addition to the script. I think it definitely is something they put in later on to it. But I do think it's kind of smart for anybody that's paying attention enough and wants to know. Yeah, here's what happened to the Brody kids. They grew up. One of them is a builder and a construction genius. Which, by the way, he'd had to go to school a long time to learn how to do that stuff. But he's doing that, and he's kind of hooking up with this marine biologist lady, and his younger brother's in college. And that's we're not going to follow the adventures of the adult Brodies anymore because, I mean, who would want to see that, right? But we now are going to follow the kids. Shark
in a retirement home. That'd be awesome.
Something, right? I mean, that's sort of where they would have been. I I was fine with it. I mean, I like Dennis Quaid. I think he's a fun enough actor in the right role. I think he's done some really awful films, and he's done some pretty good ones too. So I'm fine with him. The dude that plays his brother, John Putch, I understand he did a lot of TV work in the 70s and 80s. I never watched him. I think he's a director in his own right now. Good for him. But I didn't really get anything off of them. I thought it was nice to have the older brother, younger brother thing, though, because I have an older brother, and the distance in age is about the same as the Brody kids are supposed to be here. So I can kind of dig that and dig the dynamic, but I didn't need it to be them. It could have just been two other people for all I cared. They're not even the most interesting characters. That's the thing. The most interesting character is the one played by Louis Gossett Jr. Can we agree on that? That Bouchard is so deliciously awful in this movie. He's this jive talking.
Yeah, we got to get the shaka to get to the parka.
Wow, what a turn.
This is after his Oscar, right?
Yes, he did Roots, then he did Officer and a Gentleman, which that movie sucks, but he is awesome in it as the drill sergeant leading those Navy pilots through boot camp and stuff. He won an Oscar for that, and then he turned around and did this. And it's been said before, and you say it again, it's different for African-American actors. They get the payday jobs when they get the critical acclaim. They don't get to just do whatever they want to do, especially in the 80s. So I have a feeling...
it happened with Halle Berry. I mean, what happened to her after her Oscar?
She became Catwoman and a Bond.
Yeah, Catwoman.
Right?
And then Jamie Foxx as well. He did Stealth. So.
Right, exactly. So it's the same thing over and over again. Well, it just happens. And
I guess Denzel's kind of the exception.
Denzel kind of slow played it because he won an Oscar as a supporting role, and then he did some dramatic stuff, and then but Denzel's like done the action thing now. I think Denzel's doing the Liam Neeson cash in.
Even though he did do John Q or something after?
John Q, yeah.
Oh my God, is that a bad movie?
That's a bad film. Denzel's had his moments too and things like that. But Denzel did Crimson Tide with Hackman, which is nothing but a cash grab Michael Bay piece of garbage. But he's
done good movies. I like the Pelican Brief and stuff. Those are good.
Yeah,
movies.
yeah, he's done good stuff. And so, but that's the thing. Lou Gossett Jr. is a fantastic actor. And he is awful in this movie because the role is awful, but I cannot tell you that I wasn't entertained.
I'll give him credit. He knew the type of movie he was in.
Oh, yeah.
I think he knew it, and I think he was just going there and having fun with it.
Oh, totally. Yeah, he looks like him and McCorkindale look like the only people having fun because they're having a blast.
The Dolphins were having fun too.
Can you tell Cindy and Sandy? Can you tell me what Philip Fitzroy is supposed to be? Is he like a Geraldo meets Jacques Cousteau or something?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe he's kind of like the crocodile hunter before the crocodile hunter was a thing.
He kind of does have that look. Doesn't he?
Both went out kind of this, screwing around with stuff they shouldn't have been screwing around with. But actually, I kind of wish you ever see the movie Alligator?
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, and like Alligator 2, I think it's like he's kind of like a character out of one of those. Oh, Alligator 2 is fun. I've never seen 2.
I've just seen the first, but yeah.
Yeah, Alligator 2 literally has the same character in it. It's instead of being like an Aussie, he's a Cajun, and he's like a big game, like kind of like a whatever. But I don't know. It's just I think the character's fun, and I really wish that instead of doing the Brody kids, it would have been someone like this. Where being kind of the main focus was doing like a Jacques Cousteau, kind of like
He's kind of the Muldoon of Jurassic Park here too. Like if they had done that and combined him and the Brody character together, that would have worked, right? Like if you had the park ranger and the biologist were friends or basically Jurassic World, is what we're saying. If you had those characters 30 years before, that would have worked here.
See and you know me, I just love rewriting movies, but like how much cooler would that have been if they would have like caught the great white shark and also like Mike Brody shows up and he's like this like shark hunter and everything where it's
exactly
like I've seen these guys in action before. We have to kill it. You don't understand.
I know, right?
You don't understand the nature of a great white shark.
I love that rant he has where he's like, they're murderers, I'm telling you. And I'm like, oh, God, you couldn't make this movie now. It'd be Boycott City, man. People
oh, my God,
mind.
Yeah. You'd have PETA out there, like, just freaking protesting it and everything.
I mean, it's crazy town, right? So, but, I do have to say, of our cavalcade of cast here or whatever, they do have actors in place that realize, whether they're having fun or not, they realize how two-dimensional and cardboard they're supposed to be, and they just kind of go with it. I'll give Bess Armstrong this. You see actors sometimes play characters, and you're like, "There's no way." You're like Mark Wahlberg is a science teacher. I'm like, "Nah, that would never happen." Like no, he'd be a history teacher maybe, but he'd be the coach. Like that, he's not that. She actually, like, I buy her in this role. Like, she doesn't seem fake. I'm like, I get it. Yeah, you're the biology lady and you're the fish expert, and you train the whales to do that awful, minstrel show that they do now, and all that stuff. And you want to work at the Scripps Institute and be like taken seriously, but you've taken this job because it probably paid good. I kind of get that from her, and I like that. I think there's a little bit to that. The problem is again, this movie is trying to be one of those Towering Inferno Airport 79 movies with a shark in it. So it's got to spend this inordinate amount of time on these human characters so that when they get in trouble later, we somewhat care about them. The problem is I really don't. Like, I really don't care if any of these people live or die the entire film. Even Bouchard. I kind of figured he would get it at some point.
No, I kind of like the opposite here, where it's like I want to see them all get killed. That's kind of like after about the first 20 minutes, I'm just like, yes, I'm rooting for the shark. I'm rooting for the shark.
That's what I'm saying. That's the effect, but that's not what's supposed to happen. Here's the thing, though. As
cheesy of a disaster movie as what they're trying to be, it's like they missed I don't know if the budget wasn't there, but they missed a lot of really kind of what I'll call cool opportunities throughout this movie. But we'll get there when we kind of get to those scenes.
So we have this underwater park with all of its attractions, and the action really gets started when one of Brody's maintenance guys does exactly what his boss tells him not to do. Do not go in overtime. He waits till everybody leaves. Yeah.
Overtime.
Would you love that jet ski, by the way, too, man? Wow, that brought back memories. Little water, stand-up thing that Brody's running around on. And
did they even make those anymore?
No, they don't. You can't even find this anymore. It's because they're incredibly unsafe. So, but that was the first time I'd ever seen one, so I thought it was cool. But this moron, Beefcake, whatever you want to call him, what's his name in the movie? Shelby Oberman, goes down by himself to repair a gate at dusk in the open ocean, basically.
That's when he jumps down there, and it's like he could see down there. I'm like, there's no way you could see down there at dusk. I'm like, there's no light hitting the water.
I know. I'm like, what's lighting this, man? I was like, if you get near like a body of water, particularly oceanic water, even if it is Gulf water, which this is, I guess, is supposed to be Gulf or Atlantic water, depending on where you're going to re-put this in Florida, where it really doesn't exist. If it gets the least bit of not sunlight on it and you go down 3 feet, it's dark.
Yeah, it's absolute blackness down there. But my thing is, like, he's not even going down there to fix it. He's just putting a chain around the fence, right?
Right. He's not even fixing the track. He's just chaining it together.
Then why not chain it at the top?
Well, better yet, why didn't he do that 3 hours ago when his boss said just chain the gate? He could have gone right down then and chained it up, and then they all went and got a drink at the bar and shoved each other over, or whatever the hell that game was.
But what track is there? This isn't a track fence. It's a gate arm.
Oh, it's supposed to be, and this is the thing, and I only know this because I looked up a little bit. This is a built lagoon, right? So this is all man-made. So that's only supposed to be like 30 or 40 feet deep right there. And there's a bottom part to it and a top part to it. And the gate has gotten offline. And it's gotten offline because the friggin' shark ran into it. I mean, that's what we found out, is that what we'll find out is the mama shark is a 35-foot great white, which cannot biologically exist.
I am so confused right now with the logistics of this. So maybe you can clear this up, okay?
You have
we get a scene before this with the shark entering. Am I right?
Yeah.
So the shark is in the lagoon at this point, correct?
The shark is swimming in and out of the lagoon at this point.
Oh, so he's going back and forth. I thought he was in the lagoon. So
it followed the water skiers. She followed the water skiers, then came back in with them, and that's why the dolphins are like, F the lagoon, we're not going in there.
But the thing, though, is when he goes down there to chain it, the shark eats him, and then the shark's going went back out then into the water, into the ocean? Is that what happened?
I think what he's doing is he's on the ocean side because he's got a dock that he pops up on off of there, right? I think
so the shark was in the lagoon earlier, and then during some other amount of time it went back out into the ocean, and now it's trying to go back in.
Right, it's trying to get back in because it either has given birth in the park or is about to give birth in the park. We're going to talk about that in a minute too, because we don't know a lot about how great white sharks birth, but we know they don't do this. So I mean, they don't keep them around for several years. It's more like sea turtles. Like, there you go, because when a shark's born, it's pretty well operational at that point.
I think even don't the mom sharks even eat the youngins sometimes too?
If ain't nothing else better around. So I mean, it's every shark for itself at this point. But
yeah, it's either a shark or a college kid. They like to eat their own. Beyond
that though, this guy's a moron. All right, I mean, a complete idiot, because he disobeyed his boss, and I think Brody even calls it out that he broke the diver's rules. I'm like, yeah, you never go down without somebody not knowing that you're down there. That's like what happened to the dude in 127 Hours. You never go rock climbing and not tell people where you're going. So, I mean, he gets it, and we see that arm floating out and all that. And, of course, that's so freaky looking or whatever. But
not as freaky as the catfish head in the beginning.
I was going to say, you talk about matte lines. That arm matte lines were bad in this. But this guy is an idiot, and he is the reason all of this crap happens, because he had fixed that gate earlier in the day, the shark would have had to give birth elsewhere and would have been like, screw it. And
so you're saying he's the equivalent of the turret gun operator on the on a Star Destroyer when it didn't shoot down the pod with C-3PO and R2-D2. He is the cause of everything that happens after this.
If you had look, I realized
you had done your job.
Those laser bolts cost money. We're on a budget here, but we don't know what's in that, so let's just make sure. Look, Hicks was right. You nuke the site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. And yes, you fix the gate when your boss tells you to fix the damn gate. But anyway, no, because now we get to go and push each other over at the bar, which, what the hell is that? I've never understood. Were they trying to make that a thing? Or, I wasn't old enough to go to bars at that point, so I don't know if it was a thing that they picked up on in a bar, but it seems like the dumbest thing ever.
I don't know. It's might as well just go around playing grab ass at that point. I don't know.
I mean, it's so dumb.
I don't know. We do a lot of dumb stuff at bars. We used to play a game called Sack Hit, where you just like walk out, with your guys in the group, and when they're not suspecting, slap your hands into their balls.
There are YouTube videos of that. So makes me thankful when I was going through that age and stuff that there weren't video cameras everywhere. Thank goodness. Not that I was involved in Sack Hit, but anyway.
It's fun. Give it a try at your next Christmas party.
I think I'll pass. But it does get an excuse to put Leah Thompson in that blue bikini, which seems to be the only reason they hired her here. Now, this was the year that she broke out. She had all the right moves and this, and then later on she would do Back to the Future and Howard the Duck and become like a real star and stuff. And it just had a great movie career. I like Leah Thompson. I think for what she's supposed to be here as eye candy and stuff, she works. She's very pretty. She's got a much better hairstyle than the chicks in the last.
She's one of those 80s girls where it's kind of like the Molly Ringwald, or even like a Jennifer Grey, where it's like, yeah, I saw her in a bunch of movies and then she just disappeared.
No, she still works, man. She's on television.
Is she? I don't know. She's not on HBO. I don't really watch.
Yeah, she hadn't made a Game of Thrones run yet, but I'm sure that's coming. So I think the only thing she didn't do was play a Bond girl at some time in the 80s, and it probably just missed her window somewhere in there. I don't know how that didn't happen, but things you could use your time machine to go retroactively fix. She should have been in one of those Roger Moore ones. But anyway, we have the shark now in the water, and we now have to introduce celebrity video dude. Like I said, is he the Geraldo of Jacques Cousteau photography? I don't know, but he really likes to drink at the bar, and he's got that guy, like his man friend servant that has the Cockney accent can barely understand half the crap that dude says. And I wonder if like they just fed him line at a time and he would just sort of ran with it. And they're like, screw it, nobody's gonna listen to this guy anyway. But Jack is his name. I love him. I mean, he's a great character because he's. I mean, when I was a kid, I was like, I have no idea what that man is saying, and now I'm like, I kind of caught every other word. Like, I really don't know what he says half the time. It's a thick accent.
It's kind of like, you've ever seen the movie Euro Trip where they're on the bus with the soccer hooligans and the guy's just looking at him and goes, I got no idea what you just said. This is like a whole new reality of profanity. But
yes, it's very much that. Or it's like watching, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels or something like that, or Snatch, and you're trying to figure out what the hell Brad Pitt's saying. It's like, I don't know, but it works. It's fine. So I dig Jack for that. I think he's been in other stuff I've seen too, but I do like Simon McCorkindale though. I think he's a fun character that gets kind of wasted in this movie because he's really only there to hit on the doctor lady to get shot down and then to let's kill the shark. And then he's like, no, keeping it alive is better. We'll do lots of TV coverage. And I'm like, how does this guy guarantee all this TV coverage? Like he's just the entertainment. He's just the talent. Like, is he so in demand that like every studio arm is going to bend over backward to try to pay top dollar for footage of a shark?
I guess so. I don't know. I mean, this is when they get like, this is before the baby shark, right?
Well, this is when they've discovered there is a baby shark because Catherine and Mike Brody go down in that little submersible thing, which is some nice underwater photography stuff. And the baby shark attacks as they're at one of the fake sunken ships or something like that.
Yeah, I was laughing because it was like, SeaWorld's got submarines?
Hey, man, that little thing is cool, though. Actually, that was a real piece of equipment that they got to borrow and show off. I've seen that thing, like, work in other seafaring films and in, like, nature documentaries and stuff. So apparently that was a real thing. It was something they used.
I know it's a real thing. I'm just kind of laughing that it's like SeaWorld's got a submarine.
Well, I could see if they're going to purport that they have all this underwater structure and stuff like that, you got to have some way of getting to it besides just taking a boat out and diving through it. Maybe you want to
suppose, yeah. They spent $32 million on that underwater
Could you even open up like a second-rate fast food restaurant for $32 million nowadays?
Yeah, I don't even think Chick-fil-A wants more than that to start their own franchise.
I mean, you got to. Just the ground ride alone, I think, would run you more. $30 million wouldn't even get you a Sears home store, I don't think. But maybe in the 80s it was, I don't know. But it's like they built a city underwater almost. I mean, that's the other thing is you have to believe in a disaster movie that the thing where the disaster is going to take place is this greatest piece of architectural and engineering feat ever, and it turns out to be nothing but a friggin' death trap. And that's what this is. And there's a reason we don't have these kind of things because this is what would happen. They would lose pressure and water would start to fill up and everybody would freak the hell out. And
Mommy, look, a shark.
Yeah, and the shark is sort of being drugged towards them by a fishing line. So yeah, this would never work, but it's a neat idea, and we get to see a ton of it. Again, if I'm watching this movie and I'm trying to realize what I'm watching, this is the part of the disaster movie where I can make a sandwich, I can dust the house, I can grade some papers, I can do other stuff because none of this crap matters. All I really need to know is when is the shark going to get here and start doing stuff, and they get to that.
But this is all the dramatic stuff, though. When they catch then they catch the baby shark, kind of in the same way from Jaws 1 with the flotation devices on it.
Well, no, I was getting to that. I was saying then they do get us to a good action point, and the shark chase is pretty fun. The way that they go about doing it, and Brody's got to shoot the arrow, which is Friday the 13th-esque, that dart coming at us and all that stuff. I like how they catch the shark and then try to keep it alive. The problem is they show us way too many scenes of the shark being walked around the pool and crap like that.
Yeah, but you miss the funniest thing though when they initially ran into the baby shark and they get the dolphins back in the cage, when the shark rams into the dolphin cage.
Oh yeah,
that is hilarious.
It rams the cage and its face folds back because it's just made out of rubber. In reality, it would have probably gone through it because that was a pretty weak ass cage, but I mean, a shark that size, which, we're supposed to think the baby's, 7 or 8 feet long, probably still move at about 50 miles an hour if it wanted to.
That shark grew fast.
It's nothing. Well, you know what? They're born pretty big. Like great white sharks.
They're not born at like 10 feet long.
They're not. That shark's not 10 feet long though. It's really only about 6 or 8 feet. If you look at it in terms of when like Quaid's standing up next to it in the pool later, it's not any bigger than him if he laid it down. The model.
You mean the inflatable pool that they got from like Walmart?
Yeah,
it's got like little coral reefs like drawn on the side with like little like Nemo fish.
Well, you got to make the shark feel at home. So, that's what sharks like to look at. I'm with you. I'm like, well, that's the dumbest thing ever. I guess that's for the dumb tourist.
Yeah, and the shark is like sick. He's just like floating around in there.
Like they're having to like pump air over his gills with a vacuum hose because he's so like, just kill me. I mean, I just want to die. I haven't eaten.
Oh my God, this sucks.
People are terrible. But if the shark could talk, that would have only been the other thing. But yeah, they capture the shark.
And he rolls over.
When it dies, you got it, man. That is like the worst shark death ever. He's like, here I go. I'm done, world. And it just sort of bellies up. And at that point, I'm like, oh, man, this movie sucks. I mean, it's really starting to just fall apart.
I just love it.
Way.
It's like, haven't you ever had goldfish when they die? They just kind of like belly up.
Yes.
We should just do the same thing with this 10-foot great white shark. Just like, whoop, he just rolls up on his belly.
I love how its head comes out as just to say goodbye, world, and then just sort of rolls over. And then they jump in there with it because I'm like, yes, let's jump in the pool with the man-eating animal.
CPR now. CPR for the shark.
Oh, really? Like I did expect Catherine to give it mouth to mouth.
I was expecting them to like pull out like the
defibrillator.
The paddles for the defibrillator and start shocking them and being like, you guys are in water, but
they shocked the one last time and it turned it on fire, so maybe they didn't want to do that again. They've already set that up. But yeah, no, this is bad. And like she jumps out and Simon McCorkindale, of course, is hanging around and she's like, go ahead, photograph it. And I was just like, It's a dead fish. I've seen one of those.
I loved it even before this even happened, though, when they were talking about catching the great white. And then you got the Aussie where he's like, I want to kill it on TV and, you guys can do it. I'm like, yes, because that's what nature programs want. They want a guy jumping in the water and killing a great white shark.
Maybe in the 80s they did, dude. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to judge, but I don't remember many nature docs at the time.
Oh, my God. Could you imagine the Unilad freaking article on that?
I don't want to. So, but I will say this. I love how he does this whole thing about Kelvin. They die magnificently. And then we see one die and I'm like, no, it actually kind of dies like a bitch. I mean, it really doesn't die that magnificently. It just drowns. So like any fish, it dies and it's terrible. And let's not watch that. It's awful. But the big fun is coming, though, because we're
No, I don't think anything's funner than a shark in a little pool when you have people around it, because that's what you want to do. You want people to put their hands in the water when there's a freaking shark right in there.
No, the best thing, though, the turn of the movie when the fire sets and the inferno goes and all that stuff, is the people are walking through the undersea Jonah thing or whatever, which I'm like, man, that's a bold statement for a proper company to make a Judeo-Christian statement like that. You wouldn't do that nowadays either. But you've got the Marine Fun House and the woman's watching the coral move or whatever, or the seaweed move in front of her, and then the Oberman body just floats up like a piece of barbecue at her. And I'm like, okay, that's actually pretty neat, because now we've turned this into a straight Friday the 13th movie. We found the dead bodies, they're hanging everywhere, and we get the whole I must see it, and the bugs are crawling out of him. I'm like, where did this guy attract roaches at this point?
See, I don't know if you ever went to like Disney World when you were a little kid, but what they used to have at like before 2000 Leagues Under the Sea became Nemo, is that over there they used to have a restaurant you could go eat at.
That's twisted.
Yeah. And like you could eat like in this restaurant, and like you would sit at a table and there would be like almost like a porthole that you could look out to into the reef. And I remember eating there when I was a little kid, and knowing this movie, I was always expecting like a dead body just to kind of like float by.
I actually had that thought though, but we had portholes at our local Long John Silver's, but it was out in the middle of the air, so I knew it wouldn't happen. But I thought about that.
Yeah, you can look outside and go see all the cars drive by.
Exactly right. So, but anyway, I'm not sure what was faker, the dead body or the fish I was consuming at the time. But either way, Oberman comes up.
It's all tilapia.
Yeah, boy, I'm gonna tell you, the tilapia population must be something. But anyway,
Poor man's lobster.
I thought that was a catfish. But anyway, they realize, or Catherine starts having this freak out like psychic moment where, like, without a tape measure or anything, this woman is a mathematical genius. She figures out the bite radius of what ate this man, despite the fact that he's been in the water for at least 3 days and there are more fish around there that have nibbled off of him. She figures out, no, it's a shark with a 3-foot, mouth, and that would be a shark of 35 feet. And, she goes to tell Fitzroyce and Calvin this while they're having drinks at the underwater bar, because, yes, let's get people drunk 40 feet under the water, because that's a good safety precaution. And then the shark shows up through the bubble screen, and I swear, Nick, the shark like grins at everybody. I mean, did you just see it? As it's growling, it's like, "Hi, I'm here." So, have you seen my child? I lost my child at the mall. It's kind of what the shark does.
No, I was thinking like, hey, can I have a drink?
I'll take a Stoli on the rocks. So it's warm out here in this water. So I'm a cold fish. But yet, no, really, the shark, and that's when I realized, I'm like, well, this movie is gonna suck completely. Now can it just be fun? Because this shark looks awful. This is the worst looking one of the 4 we've seen. You got to admit, this is the worst shark model.
Yeah, it is. And even when we get later, when it's still, they're showing like full body shots of the swimming in the water, it doesn't even move.
It's like the tail barely swipes. I'm like, that would not move this animal. Like, sharks' tails are really powerful, but they move. Like, you see, these things can bend. They're pretty amazing because they're not made out of bone. They're made out of cartilage, so they can twist in all kinds of different ways. And big ones. Like, I've seen big sharks. We've seen video of this now. The GoPro has made the world open to us. But nothing ever this big, but even ones that are like really big, like 22, 23 feet, those things can still turn around on a dime and move.
Oh,
this
yeah.
shark moves like a minivan on ice or something. Like, it barely can turn. It's like the first Batman costume. It can only turn when the whole body turns. It's amazing looking. And it's about as rubber, I think. I mean, it's pretty bad, right? So we get mayhem at the park now, though, because the shark has introduced itself to everyone downstairs.
Yeah, and now the shark's just like, fuck it, they've seen me. Let's just go crazy.
Let's just go. And the first thing it decides
It was being all like incognito at first, but then it's like, you know what? All bets are off.
Because it's so easy to hide itself.
Shit up.
It's so easy to hide itself. It's like the Godzilla monster in the Roland Emmerich Godzilla is like, how the hell is that thing hiding, even in New York City? It's like,
but that's the thing, though. You look at like the size of the lagoon and everything. Like, it's only 40 feet deep or whatever it is, and like you see like the size of the people within those tunnels. It's like, how could this thing hide anywhere? You'd see this thing everywhere.
Yes,
you see this
the shark,
big, gigantic shark.
The shark is almost as long as the lagoon is deep. And that doesn't work. Like, it would work, but the shark could never get up any speed to do anything. Because when it started to go up, it would be on the bottom. It'd be like, oh, shit, I don't know where to go. And I love how the shark is like, F it, and goes to the bumper boat rides. Because it's like, you know what? Those things are annoying. And decides to go after Sean Brody and Leah Thompson, I'm like, Leah needs to drop that dude because he's all like, I'm bored. I'm like, you need to be making out with that chick on the ocean right now. Just shut up. All right. So, and she gets like her thigh like gets hit by a tooth, I think. I'm like, how does she have a leg? How is she alive anymore? No one dies, Nick. all this attack happens. We go after the water skiers and we trip them. We wreck a boat or
That's the whole thing. The shark's not even trying to kill anybody. He's just trying to screw around with them. Like, boop,
it's just pissing everybody off.
He's a bully at this point.
Yeah, it's like he's not even going to kill anyone. He's just trying to tick everybody off and make them have a bad day. It's like the only thing the shark could have done to piss anybody off anymore was to pop up out of the water with a Make America Great hat on. I mean, really, that's all it needed to do. I mean, the shark was just being a dick to everybody, which is amazing because it's a female shark. So I don't get what I think this is where SeaWorld stepped in and said, you can't kill anybody. You can hurt Leah Thompson. You can't kill anybody. And they were like, oh, damn, that's going to suck. And nobody dies. This whole time, nobody else dies until the very end.
One person dies, yeah, at the end.
The very end. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But in none of the mayhem attack of the shark does anything bad happen. And like, Broussard is like, lock the gate, close down the park. I'm like, no, you open the gates, you send everybody home, and you tell Brody, tell your guys to open every ocean gate we've got and let the damn thing get out of here. If you have a fly or a bee in your car.
Here is the part where they miss the boat.
Yeah.
Let them fight. Let freaking Shamu out.
Yes, exactly. And can I tell you?
You got like a 18, 20-foot killer whale in there. It's like, let them out. Why did they not do that?
I don't think
You could have had the logo of SeaWorld save the day.
They did not have, one, the money to build the animatronic to get that to work right. And two, they
spent like $6 on this shark. They could have spent another $6 on the killer whale.
They did not want anything but the humans to conquer the shark. That's pretty clear that they've set that up in these movies. But I'm going to tell you, somebody thinks like you, because when the PlayStation 2 and all those came out with the Jaws Unleashed movie, the first boss battle is you have to fight a killer whale and kill it to get out of the park you're trapped in. And somebody came up with that. And I'm like, see, now that's a worthy adversary.
It's so obvious to do.
Right.
If you don't have the money to do that, then don't even make the movie. You know what I mean?
Well, they do have those two dolphins, which dolphins can kill sharks if they're roughly the same size. That all those could do was do what they do to this shark, and that's piss it off. But they do a good job of doing that. We haven't talked about Cindy and Sandy. They've been featured as much as anybody else here, and they get about as much dialogue as some of the people. It's all in dolphin, but they're saying thanks for all the fish, and hey, we'll play with your mechanical shark, sure. So,
but at this point, maybe use the dolphins as bait or something. Open up the freaking gates and have the dolphins run out into the ocean and have the shark chase after them.
That's the thing is they're locking down the park. I'm like, no, you get everybody out of there and you open the gates up and you flood the shit out of it. You're like, no, go away. You do not want to fool with that, and then you just deal with the bad press that's about.
Oh, how about just calling the Coast Guard at this point? You know what I mean? Like, we got a 35-foot monster shark. You know
I'm going to tell you.
Let's bring the guys in here and just blow it out of the water.
Look, it was many years later, but there were smart enough people to realize that the Aliens versus Predator Requiem situation was at hand here, and all that would happen is they would get nuked from above. So they weren't about to involve the military in this, because that would everybody would die then. So, but that's the thing is there's a threat on life, but the shark has only killed one guy, and he was the douchebag diver that we didn't care about anyway. So Leah Thompson's leg is hurt.
Until the Aussie though.
Yeah, well, okay, that's coming, but I'm saying before we get to him and all that, nobody's dead. Like the shark does all this stuff, and all it does is just show up and scare the crap out of everybody. And granted, it's a good scare, but there's I'm asking, should they have killed off a bunch of people? Would that have made the stakes better?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, because I'm saying the same thing. Yes.
Oh my God, they could have had someone in a bumper boat and the shark comes up and eats the whole bumper boat. You know what I mean? You got water skiers. Why not have that thing just completely demolish the pyramid of water skiers and just eat them up? Or I don't know, just do something crazy. Have them eat some have them eat a dolphin. I don't know, just have it do something different. You know what I mean?
This is something the Sharknado movies get right, is that they kill off a whole lot of people. They figured that out.
You could have Frankie Muniz there, and it eats Frankie Muniz. I mean, you could have done something crazy like that.
Right, exactly. Or at this point, I guess it would have been John Ritter and the Three's Company girls could have been.
But that's the thing is, you look at Jaws, the first one, and it did two things in that movie that are supposedly horror things that are taboo. It ate a kid and it ate a dog. And it's like, why are we like going in reverse and like thinking like, oh, we can't even kill anybody anymore? I mean, I get the whole SeaWorld aspect or something, but if that was a problem, I don't know how much money SeaWorld gave to this movie as far as budget goes, but it's like, if you're going to have like the setting be a deterrence as far as what you can and cannot do, don't make it SeaWorld. Just make it like Ocean World or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
I think you hit on it. I think their involvement up to a point limited what could be done. And I think, too, you had to understand that the movie had, just like the last one, had started out in a different direction. And so now they were trying to meet a deadline to get it out. And there just was no creative forces really trying to do anything interesting on this.
I honestly think that this shark, and I do not mean this in any negative thing, I think the shark is mentally handicapped. I really do. Because it can't even eat its food properly, okay? It can't. It's like watching like a 5-year-old eat spaghetti and it's got sauce all over its face, and it's like, just eat normally, you know what I mean? You got a noodle hanging out, and that's what happens too. And, you know, the Aussie guy gets in there and he's going to go kill the shark. The shark doesn't even swallow him. He's like chewing him like a piece of bubble gum.
Well, we're going to talk about the Aussie guy death in a minute, because I want to talk about Fitzroy's death, because it does set up something. But you're right about something. That second shark in Jaws 2, or the Jaws 2 shark, was just a killer. It was just a slasher, and it was just mean as hell, but it wasn't stupid until the very end when it decided to eat electricity. But it wasn't dumb. This shark is menacing and dumb. Like, it's as dumb as everybody else in this movie is, and that's the problem. The fire in the towering inferno and the crisis on the airplanes and all that stuff in those disaster movies, those things work like they're supposed to. Because generally, especially if like they're earthquakes and things like that, they're pieces of nature, right? So they do what they're supposed to do. Jaws 3, the natural disaster, the shark, is just as dumb as everything else, and it makes the dumbest decisions it possibly can. It follows Fitzroy, who's wearing a red wetsuit and has a little blood, into a filtration pipe so that they can lock the door behind it, so that they can, I mean, it won't drown in there, but Calvin's right. He's got the right idea. Turn the pump off and drown the thing. It would kill it in like a minute. I mean, the shark would probably break the hell out of it too, because a shark that can't swim, like we've talked about, will destroy stuff in front of it. But at least that's the right idea. Calvin's the only one who has any good ideas this whole time. Simon McCorkindale gets down there, and he doesn't get the hell out of the water as soon as he can. He's like, wants to take another picture of the shark or something, and his rope breaks, and that's what gets him eaten. But it's like half of him gets stuck in the teeth.
Take pictures of the shark after he's dead. I mean, It seems like a 35 great white shark. I mean, this thing's like a freaking freak of nature. They don't get that big. It's like, just take pictures of it when it's dead.
I know. It's like, it's going to be dead anyway. Like, that's the ridiculous part of this. And then
getting pictures of it in a tunnel, what is that going to do? You know
I know, right? What is anybody going to buy? And then the thing is though, and you're right, it's a neat idea to have the inside the mouth if it didn't look so bad. You know, we knocked that Anaconda movie for a lot of things, and it deserved it. But the best thing it had was the inside of the snake, like opening up when it was going to eat John Voight. I thought that was actually cool. It's a good idea. This is awful, because the felt teeth are just sort of folding over, and you got that big tongue in the way, and I'm like, sharks don't even have one of those.
I don't think sharks have tongues.
They don't. It's just more muscle pushed down. They don't stick it out at you as they're coming by. I'm like, no, that's not how that works. But it's almost like he gets stuck in the back there like a piece of popcorn. You know, and that arm with that grenade.
He's like a piece of like rib meat that's like caught between your molars back there, and you can't get it out. But thankfully, it didn't like chomp down on the grenades that he has on him.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I'm like, it's eating him, but it didn't blow the grenades it already had. And I know we don't want to do that now, because that would kill the climax of this movie. But we have to accept certain things when the Jaws demise is going to happen. We had to accept that it would just be sort of chewing on a compressor tank like a cigar and smile and get shot. We accept that it would eat the power line and catch on fire. So I guess we have to accept that it would leave an arm and a hand with a grenade hanging out there for Brody to pull the pin later.
I think most of his body's still on the side of his mouth, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it is kind of like he's flavor saving it back there. It's like he's got a piece of chaw in the back.
It is. He's like it's like chewing tobacco at this point.
It's like maybe this shark is like one of those old school ladies that like did snuff, and that's what she's got going on back there.
Aussie wintergreen. That's what he has.
He's got a good flavor. Gonna keep him. Yeah. So maybe she develops his accent as she eats him.
See, that would have been awesome though. If the shark had like a Gatorade bottle that he was spitting the blood back into.
Can you bring me a cup, please? Put a little paper towel in the bottom of it. But we get out because Brody and the shark gets out. The breakout is what's amazing. The shark basically just goes in reverse and beats the lock to death in the back. Sharks cannot swim backwards. All right, that's like a thing that would actually kill one. That's how you can drown one. It's grab it by the tail and go the other way. If you've got the boat to do it, you've just won. You know, which is essentially what they were trying to do in the first movie. They were just going to tie off all those dang things and drag it to the
yeah. But this shark's got a tongue though. It probably put his tongue out of his mouth and just did like kind of like a flip flop pattern to push itself out.
Well, it does something later because once it gets out, it goes after Catherine and Mike because it can smell the underwater welding. And it like gets is it like a tooth stuck in the door? It's just trying to open the door behind them.
But here's the point though. The thing I just don't get at this point is, okay, you got like everybody basically out minus the people that are in that middle section. You know, it's like, why don't worry about getting those people out and then just get the hell out of the water? You know what I mean? Come up with a plan. It's not like really like times your enemy here where it's like, oh my God, we got this gigantic monster here and we got to kill it before it gets out of the park. Gets out of the park, it's in the ocean. Who cares then? You know, leave it to that being. But it's just like the whole like urgency of like trying to stop this shark at this point is like just so strange.
It is like they've hit the panic button on something that doesn't need it. You're right, because Mike and Catherine go back to central control, and then here comes the shark slowly moving at them. And I got to say, I have a vivid memory of seeing this in the theater, and it looked much cooler than what it looks like now when that shark hits the glass and the water all come at you and everything. That was a neat effect. It totally does not translate into home viewing. I haven't seen this in 3D, but
that might be one of the worst special effects I've ever seen in a movie. I mean, it's laughable. That's actually one of the earliest memories of this movie I have. I remember I was watching this and like my dad walked in at this scene and was just laughing at the shark coming to hit the water and just like the slow motion where it's just like, everybody's mouth is open and then like the glass shards break through and everything. My question too is like, why is the control room underwater?
Right. That I didn't get either.
Why? What is the point of that? I don't get it. What are they watching? Like, what could they possibly be observing besides the fact of like, this is pretty cool? To me, that's just like a freaking big, gigantic waste of money. Maybe money that they should have put in putting better welds and bolts in their underwater, tank, in like walking
Maybe
system.
make the gate a little bit better. I don't know. Maybe put the gate a little further outside of the direct entry to the lagoon so that in case something gets in, you got a double wall, like have a moat.
Yeah, a chain link fence, something that you could pick up at Lowe's is perfectly,
That's pretty well what they've got. They have
that is the gate. It's just a chain link fence. It's terrible.
Yes, it's shot in a pool, and that's why it looks that way. So I will tell you though, man, this is where the funny things start happening as the shark sort of juts in and out outside the claymation looking shark. That they keep cutting.
He's like humping the control
It is
room.
like he's humping the control room as he goes in to try to eat. Now Calvin saves the random woman in the back, but his nephew, who we have set up, Fred, gets chomped to bits and turns into a bloody cloud of goo there in front of us. But the shark doesn't even eat him; like it spits him out. Like there's a scene where the shark chomps and then just drops Fred. And so, because if it had eaten him, you would think it would have dislodged McCorkindale in there too, right? So at least I had always thought that, like, how did that not happen? There's actually a shot of Fred's body falling away from the fake shark mouth as it turns around to eat something else.
I guess he didn't like the way he tasted. I don't know.
I don't know, man. Maybe it was something. Maybe he'd eaten too much. We've already talked about the shark has a complex about itself. Maybe so. Maybe it's trying to watch the weight. It's already huge. I mean, it's big
Yeah.
boned or whatever.
It's bulimic at this point. He's just eating and purging.
Well, he's already mad. You know, it's all a suicide mission at this point because its head's stuck in the control room. It's not going anywhere because it never swims back out and comes back in for another run. You know, it's like it's stuck. So it's just sort of hanging out and semi-hump in the area, which means it would be drowning and dead. But they decide, no, I see that you see the grenade into there. Dennis Quaid points dramatically as music pumps behind him. And we go with, okay, I'm going to get a random piece of metal from somewhere in here, and I'm going to pull the pin on the shark grenade because that's what we want to happen, right?
How big is the grenade? About the size of your fist?
Well, he does explain it as it's a certain grade of Claymore or something like that. And I actually
I'm not disregarding, you know, how big the explosion is, but the fact that he can see that. I mean, all that stuff's going on. You got a 35-foot shark with probably like a 10-foot biting radius, and he sees like the little grenade in the back.
Well, it's a 3-foot bite radius. Let's be fair. It's a yard across. So, but you're right. He sees something the size of a Pepsi can, but it is painted yellow. So, you know, it does stand out for that reason, maybe.
He's only got a 3-foot bite radius. How is that guy still in his mouth? I mean, come on. I mean, I measure shoulders from shoulders. It's got to at least be 20 inches, you know, for the skinniest guy. So that's over half his bite radius.
I know. I'm just saying that, you know, that's what they've told us in this movie. So I can only go with what they've laid on us at this point. But Brody pulls the pin. They huddle behind, and we do get a pretty massive explosion of shark guts and things flying at us. And I have to say, the teeth hanging there and stuff, that looked cool in the theater, and it's still, I'm like, okay, that's what I wanted to happen. I mean, that's what has to happen at the end of the disaster thing. I want to see that. You know, I want to see Godzilla blown to bits like that. That's what this is. So, fine, there we go. And if it had just ended there, I think I would be like, okay, fine. But we get 5 more minutes of screwing around on the surface waiting for some dolphins and some really bad music to go with it. And at that point, I'm like, I didn't need any of this. And the fact that they superimposed
I love that this movie only had like one dolphin recording, because those dolphins make the same sound every time. And I guarantee you they didn't even go out and got that. They got it from Flipper. Remember that show? They got that noise
stock
from Flipper, and they just kept on hitting that on repeat. You know, whoever was the sound editor for this, he's just like, oh, hit the button, you know, with the sound. Because the dolphins make the same goddamn noise throughout the entire movie.
Well, that, and they superimposed them over the actors because they couldn't get them to jump close enough, I guess, at the end, because they make perfect symmetry there at the end. And I'm like, it's almost like there should be a banner across the screen like, thank you for visiting SeaWorld, come again. I mean, that's really how the movie ends. Because I'm like, well, you're both out of jobs now. But this park is going to close down. What jobs you thought you had in Venezuela are probably gone now. You're both done. So,
and that what they should have done is the Avengers style ending, where like after the credits, you know, Quaid and her sitting at a bar and like, what are we gonna do? And all of a sudden, like, Hooper comes walking in.
You guys ever sharking for a living?
Hey, we got a mission for you guys. What? You ever heard of the Jaws Initiative?
The stinger scene. What if only Marvel could have gotten their crap together 30 years before? But oh well. So.
Oh well. Well, you know what? We do have hope for that. I mean, DC does have a character called King Shark, so
I didn't
you never
know.
Yes, he's a half shark, half guy.
Well, that's about as half good as any of their movies have been. So I'm expecting that one in theaters soon. But I guess it's time to pull the pin on this one, Nick. Final thoughts, recommendations, popcorn ratings. What are yours for Jaws 3?
Well, during our last show, I had mentioned that I thought Jaws 2 was the better of the sequels, and I'm going to say it's kind of the same as this one. I was watching this movie, and it's fucking stupid. It is bad, but some of the bad stuff is kind of funny, and you know, it's unintentionally funny. But to me, it's worth watching as like just one of these bad popcorn movies where you just want to laugh at something. You know, you can't find a good comedy on Netflix, and just put on Jaws 3. I mean, it's just as good as anything like Judd Apatow's done in his last like 3 movies. So you can sit there and you can just laugh at this. And to me, I think it's a medium popcorn as well. I think the funny bits outweigh some of the bad stuff, and plus you get Leah Thompson in a bikini, which is always which makes it better than, the girls in Jaws 2. So at least you got something to look at. And plus dolphins are kind of cute. So you got that going as well. So to me, medium popcorn, I mean, you got a shark humping a control room. So how do you beat that?
I'm going to agree with you on the medium popcorn, and it's because as a disaster film, this one delivers right along the lines is what I would expect for it. You can almost completely ignore anything that happens the first hour of this movie.
Yeah, skip the first hour, really.
Yeah.
I mean, fast forward, Leah Thompson in a bikini, fast forward again, just get to the shark smiling in that room, and I think you're good. Just go. You get a little half-hour episode. Yeah,
yeah. If you've seen this movie before, really, you could just turn it on and then go do other things and come back and watch the last act, because that's the part that's worth it. It's the delivery point. And I'll say, once again, they really can't set up anything good, but that last act, they know how to deliver. And this movie delivers in that area. And yes, it's dumb, and it's the dumbest thing ever, but it's unintentionally funny.
It's not the dumbest thing ever, Jay.
It's the dumbest thing we've seen in a Jaws movie so far. Let's say that. But it does have the satisfying end. And so I'm going to give it medium popcorn for the same reasons. I think it will be, I think it is a enjoyable enough watch for like a good, Sunday afternoon matinee after football season's over and you don't really want to get into your NBA season. If this is on, take a nap on the couch, wake up and watch the last 20 minutes of it, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It is like an NBA game. Just save it for the fourth quarter. The other three quarters really don't matter anyway.
Really? So. Unless you're a diehard fan, you're right. Or if you're at the game. You're right. You show up for the end and you're good.
Well, I got to ask, though, I mean, the first two movies that they made you scared to go in the water, this one would kind of make me kind of comfortable going in the water because the shark ain't going to do anything to you. It's just
it doesn't kill you.
Maybe screw around with you a little bit, kind of hit your bumper car. You might get a scratched leg, but you know what? I'm pretty confident going in the water with the shark now.
If there's a chance that I'm going to get to hang out with Leah Thompson and I'm that age and I'm single, oh yeah, I'm going in the water. So I'm getting over my fear real quick. But obviously they had different plans. I cannot wait to talk Jaws the Revenge with you, my friend, because I have a feeling that's going to be a really interesting discussion because I know way more about that movie than I really should. And it's because it came out at the time when I got super obsessed with it. And, novelization, the game. We'll talk about all of that next time. I can't wait to get back and talk about.
Are you talking about Shark Attack, the game where you that game with the shark going around the board and you got to move your minnows?
Nope, I'm talking about the NES Jaws the Revenge game. So we'll talk about that. Notice that new one that they came out with at Christmas time. That ain't in the 30 classics, folks. So you want to play that? You got to play the ROM version online, or unless you still own a copy of it. But
I know what I'm doing tonight.
I think you're going to have a good time with that. We'll certainly enjoy it. Folks, thanks for joining us on this latest edition of Film Strip. You can find all of our past episodes on our iTunes feed and also on our website, continuousplaypodcast.com/movies. Leave us a review on iTunes. Let folks know about the show. We appreciate your support. Until next time, for Nick, I'm Jay. Thanks for listening to Film Strip.
Thank you for listening to Film Strip. You can find more episodes on our website, continuousplaypodcast.com/movies. Please leave us a positive review on iTunes and link up with us on Facebook. The Film Strip theme music is produced and performed by Frozen Lake 121.